Hi guys, and welcome to my 30-second video. Thank you so much for joining me if you are a return subscriber, or hello if you are new. My name's Adrina, I'm an Australian teacher, a Teachers Pay teacher seller, and a mum. So things get a little bit crazy around here. Now in today's video, I am going to be discussing CLIPART licensing and terms of use. Now this is something that I haven't really spoke about too much on my channel before, but I think it's super important, and to be honest, I really wish I had a video like this when I first started out on Teachers Pay Teachers. If I had a video like this when I first started on Teachers Pay Teachers, I would have had a lot more clarity sooner, and not only that, I probably wouldn't have made the mistake that I mentioned in the video of what happened in the very early days of my Teachers Pay Teachers journey. So basically in this video, the topics I'm going to be covering is the basic terms of use, like CLIPARTIST edition, the different types of licensing. As we know, there's all different types of licensing, extended, there's limited, there's movable pieces. I go through all of that, and I also talk about the basics of crediting and securing or flattening your products and your clip art. I talk about the importance of that. Now I will say this video is a little long, but let me tell you, there is some valuable pieces in here for you if you are just starting on your clip art journey, or if you are wanting to know a bit more into the realm of TPT as a clip artist and what things you need to expect. But not only that, but if you are a buyer on Teachers Pay Teachers, this is important for you to know as well. And also if you are someone that buys clip art and uses it in your product, this is also a video for you, because there's some gold nuggets in here for either parties, for the buyer and also the seller, that I go over. And I think it might just help some people out that are still just trying to learn and navigating all the different terminology of the TPT world, and also in the clip art world in particular. So without further ado, let's get into this presentation. Okie dokie guys, so let's talk Teachers Pay Teachers, clip art licensing and terms of use. This is going to be good. This is going to be full of value for especially those people that are just starting out. This is kind of, to be honest, information that I would have loved to know or hear about when I first kind of ventured into even Teachers Pay Teachers in general, but yeah, specifically into the whole clip art thing. First of all, I'm just going to go over these particular topics and I'll just read them out just so you get a general idea of basically what I'm going to cover. That will help you decide whether you want to kind of sit through this presentation or not. So basically the topics I'm going to go over are basic terms of use, obviously clip art edition, the types of licenses, which are things like small business, extended, limited, movable, digital, print, etc. I'm going to kind of discuss and talk about those. The basics of crediting, flattening and securing clip art. I'm sure if you have done any reading into any of the terms of use or anything on TPT and clip art, they ask you to credit and flatten or secure your clip art. I'm going to go over that if you're confused about it as a buyer and how to use it, or even if you are just wondering what you need to say in your own terms of use if you are a creator that wants to be a clip artist. So I'm also going to kind of walk you through some examples along the way of what you can and can't do with clip art in general. And yeah, I hope that this is helpful, because I have put this together with a bit of thought in mind. And I will say a lot of this presentation is quite visual based, because I'm a visual learner myself. So I kind of learn better when I can kind of see a basic image or something to kind of concrete my understanding. So let's get into it, guys. So first of all, you may have heard of or seen the letters TOU, and basically the letters TOU stand for terms of use. In a nutshell, it basically just tells you what you can and cannot do with the clip art that you purchase. So as a clip artist, it's important to know that every clip artist, and as a buyer it's important to know this too, but every clip artist has their own individual terms of use. So as a clip artist, that will be, if you're selling on Teachers Pay Teachers, it is your sole responsibility to create your own terms of use. So this terms of use will be up to you. You make that decision as to what you want in your terms of use and how you want people to be able to use your work. As a buyer, it's really important to know, because the terms of use that come with the clip art that you purchase, they have particular things and ways of which they are allowed to be used and ways they're not allowed to be used. So let's talk about it. So for example, you may have 3 different clip artists that are, well, there's many clip artists on Teachers Pay Teachers, but just for an example, we've got 3 clip artists here. And say they're all selling on Teachers Pay Teachers. This green clip artist man, he has, for example, commercial use is allowed, but it's only for educational products. So that is part of his terms of use if you are to use any of his clip art. Yellow clip artist man, he has commercial use, but it's limited to 1,000 items. So you may see this in some people's or some clip artists' terms of use. You may see this saying up to 1,000 items. Basically, that means if you're using that clip art in a product that you make with your own original work attached to it as well, you can only sell up to 1,000 of those digital products, or physical if that's what you're doing, before, in most cases, you are having to purchase an extended license. So the license from that particular clip artist will allow you to use it up to 1,000, and then once someone purchases over 1,000 of your product, then you most likely will have to upgrade your own licensing with that clip artist to say, I've got a bigger license that I can still sell this item because I have an extended license with the clip artist. So I know it can be a little bit confusing and it's a little bit tricky to understand, but after a while, it starts to get a little easier once you wrap your head around it. Even for me, I'm still learning every day and I'm just trying to understand it as well, but this is my understanding of it. Now, in this third clip artist, this orange clip artist here, he only allows for personal use only. So we are going to talk about the difference between personal and commercial use. It is pretty self-explanatory, but we will talk about that very shortly. But you can see basically each of these clip artists have a completely different terms of use as to what is allowed in their with their work basically. So let's have a look. So what does it mean for you? What does personal commercial use mean for you as a buyer or as a clip artist? So we're going to really talk about, as a buyer, what does it mean for you to understand what personal and commercial use is, and what does it mean for you as a clip artist if you are someone that is just learning about how to be a clip artist on Teachers Pay Teachers and is just getting into this as a newbie, and you're just thinking, okay, well, what do I need to know, or what do I need to have in my terms of use to let my buyers know? So this is kind of what we're just going to cover in the next few slides. So let's have a look. So first of all, let's just get this clear, what personal commercial use really is. So if you are seeing any clip artists that say it's only allowed for personal use, this is what it means basically. So personal is only for use for yourself in a way that has no intention for profit or financial gain. So I've got 2 examples here just to kind of pave a clearer picture. But example 1 would be you have purchased a clip art set on Teachers Pay Teachers of maybe a birthday bundle or something, and you want to just make a birthday invitation for your 7-year-old child that you're going to basically just send out to his friends this birthday party. Now that is an example of a personal use intention. Have no intention to sell that particular birthday invitation that you've created for your child. So it's personal. You're using it for personal use. Another example to gain clarity over personal use is basically, say if you're in the classroom and you're teaching a concept to students and you're using clip art in the classroom in a presentation. So say, for example, you're talking about number lines and you wanted to use this clip art of this little boy to add a bit more engagement to the presentation. And this little boy is going to sit on a number on the number line. And you're using that to help teach this number line concept to your students. that is for personal use, because you're using it within the classroom to help you teach, but you have no intention to go out and sell that presentation. So that is really what personal use is. It's only for yourself, and it's not to sell, it's not to gain any money value from. Commercial, on the other hand, so commercial is using it in a way or intention to gain profit, monetary value from your work, product, resource in business. So basically to use in order to sell. So the clip art that you're purchasing, if you are coming from a business point of view, this clip art that you're purchasing, you have every intention to create something with that clip art to then sell for yourself to gain monetary value. So I got 2 examples also here. Example 1 here is creating an editable template to sell on Teachers Pay Teachers. So say, for example, you wanted to create a schedule for your classroom, and you wanted to use some clip art that involved like what was going to represent each of your schedules. So maybe it was a clock for the time, and then you were going to use books for library. So using clip art to match the text and then allowing someone to edit to suit their classroom would be a way of you want to sell it for commercial use. If there's an intention to sell it as a template for someone else to use, then that's commercial. Example 2, here we have creating a writing craft with clip art included as a main theme in order to sell on TPT. So for example, in your classroom, you may be reading, say, the book Gerald the Giraffe. And so you've decided you're going to create a writing craft that goes along with Gerald the Giraffe. It's not going to be titled Gerald the Giraffe or anything. It's just going to be, say, titled Giraffe Writing Craft. And so in that giraffe writing craft, you've used a giraffe piece of clip art, and it comes along with, you've got your writing lines and whatever else you want to add to it. But the fact that you want to upload it to allow someone else to buy it means that you are using that clip art for commercial use. So very clearly, personal is just for yourself. You're not trying to sell it, and commercial, you have every intention to use it to gain money from. That's the basics of it. All right, so I will show you here. This is just like a little screenshot of one of my little inserts of what I have on my other store, the Creative Table, terms of use. So I just basically included this as a little example just to show you how I kind of show it in my terms of use as well. So I basically just have terms of use. Thank you for taking the time to read. This resource may only be used for personal use. And I've just got personal use with a tick, creating or using this resource within your own classroom. Sole purposes only which do not involve financial gain. That's the personal use meaning in my product. And then commercial use, we've got an X here, creating or using within your own products in order to release and sell, to use with a financial gain or business. So very clearly, like I explained, I've got here too, this resource is for personal use only. So in my resource store, the Creative Table, so obviously not Tealazzo, because Tealazzo Clipper I allow for commercial use, but I've just showed you this to show you how a personal use kind of terms of use can be shown, basically. And so I show you here, this resource is for personal use only. Reproduction and commercial use of this product is prohibited. Thank you for understanding. I keep it very simple as much as I can when I can, but there's, some people like to go a bit more in depth to explain it a bit further, and that is completely fine as well. So that is just a little example, just to give you kind of an idea of how I've got my little terms of use pictured in my Creative Table store. Okay, so now when you're the buyer, what does it mean to have these kind of commercial or personal licenses? And what are you looking for as a buyer? If you are a buyer, if you want to purchase clip art on Teachers Pay Teachers, or even vice versa, if you're just wondering, if you are looking at becoming a clip artist or wanting to sell your clip art on TPT, what does it mean for you? What do you need to kind of consider in your own terms of use? This will be something that we'll talk about here too. So let's have a look. Types of commercial use licenses. So there are actually a few different types of licenses if you did not know already. I am going to go through some of the basics. Now, this is not a complete scope of them all. There are a few other ones that I not going to probably mention here, but this is just the basics of it for you to gain a better understanding or picture of it if you are confused, or if you were just curious or just wanting to kind of know a bit more about it on a deeper level. So first of all, I've just basically tried to bring it down to just 3 kind of main ones. So when you're reading terms of use, you'll find these kind of things come up in Teachers Pay Teachers, and possibly some other platforms online as well, like Etsy and things like that. But basically, this is more specifically to Teachers Pay Teachers, but you'll see some people write in their terms of use and their commercial use licenses that you can only use the clip art for small business. And that, like I was explaining before, it means up to 1,000 items. If you use clip art from that person and you have made a product with that, and that product sells for over 1,000 times, then for most licenses that have this, you are then required to purchase the extended license, which will then allow for you to continue to sell that on a bigger scale, because it's not classed now as small business if it's over that 1,000 mark. So it's really tricky because, this is coming from it's an honesty system, because they're not truly going to know whether you have sold that many, and they're not really going to chase you up. But it is truly from an honest system where you know yourself that this person has said, if you sell over 1,000 works using my clip art, then you need to purchase this extended license to give you permission to be able to sell that. So I know for a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers sellers, it's really quite, in a way, surprising, but not surprising, because it's actually really lovely when we see people even purchase additional licenses to the clip art that we have. Not me personally, but I have read stories, saying it's really nice to see that people out there as buyers listen, and they do read, and they have integrity with themselves to know that they've purchased that extended license so they can legally have that ability to sell using their clip art. So it's good when people are honest, because it is in a way like an honesty system when it comes to that, with the over 1,000 items type of requirement. So next of all is educational resources. You'll find this a lot too within some people's terms of use. So a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers people or clip artists will say what this can be used for is educational content only, and in some cases they will also give a limit, so that could also be up to 1,000 items, or it could be 500 items. So they do sometimes not have a limit, but most of them, from what I have seen, do have a limit. So be mindful of that, and be mindful, obviously, if it's educational content only, you have to be very aware of how you're using that in your product, making sure that, if you are selling on Teachers Pay Teachers, it's pretty much, you're gonna want to be selling educational resources, because that's what the whole platform is basically upon. Yeah, it just basically means you're not going online and selling your things on the clip art on things like Zazzle or Redbubble or anything like that. And so they will be specific in saying that it's only for educational content. So if you're someone outside of the whole TPT world and you're wanting to buy the clip art and it's not for educational purposes, like say you wanted to make a picture book, that won't be allowed with some people or some clip artists terms of use. So be very mindful of that too. Thirdly, here we have standard and extended. So I've just included them in one, but they are sort of separate. But basically standard, for the most part, standard just allows for commercial use. You just need to ensure that you credit the clip artist. That's a standard kind of commercial use. On TPT, the standard level is basically, okay, you can use this for commercial use. Again, it's individualized to the clip artist, but as long as you give credit, that's the majority of the standard level of that license, of the majority on TPT. For me, I'm pretty lenient with my license, and I will explain that moving forward in the next couple of slides. But yeah, I will just say there is extended as well, in contrast to standard. So extended requires you to basically get an extra license, and it may be needed in order to use the clip art in a certain manner. So you may need to get an extended license if you want to, or you want to create a product and use it on Outschool. Or if you want to create boom cards, you may need to get an extended license that allows you to sell on boom cards, for example. So those are something to very be very mindful of. So it's not just a one size fits all with a commercial use license. So you have to really read into it. So if you are reading on TPT and it just says commercial use, you can't automatically assume that you can use it for whatever you want, because that's just not the case. And you need to really look into that to see what that clip artist has as their terms of use. Okay, so with that said, I will also say different online platforms. So TPT compared to Canva is completely kind of different, and versus also like something like TPT and Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica has a completely different kind of system of commercial use understanding compared to TPT, and basically they have different expectations as to what you can and cannot do with the clip art or graphics on a commercial level for each of these platforms. And even with Etsy, like they have their own, Etsy's, I guess, in a way, a little bit more similar to TPT, where it's kind of individualized to the store. Creative Fabrica, and I know this because I actually have a store on Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica, it's only a new store that I've started, but Creative Fabrica has a bit more of a wider scope in regards to their commercial use licensing compared to Teachers Pay Teachers. Canva's licensing, I'm not going to lie, is quite grey in a lot of ways. It's not very clear, and even when they try to define it, from what I have also seen online, sometimes the Canva licensing can be a little confusing as to whether you can use it for commercial or not. So I know that's why some people say be very mindful with Canva and how you're using Canva, because of the way that they word their particular terms of use, it's a little confusing, and so that sometimes requires extra clarification as to whether that's commercially allowed to be used for certain things. So yeah, anyway, I will say TPT is, as I said before, very individualized. It is something that it's really based off the individual and the clip artist and the store. So it really has that individual nature to it. All right, so I will just mention there are other types of licenses that exist, but the ones I just mentioned before, those are just some of the basics. But I would say the main takeaway from those are the commercial use licenses are all different. So you really need to read the fine print of the terms of use, because like one clip artist can say this, another can say another thing. So they aren't all equal in the way of how they are used, because it's an individual creating individual work, and they're allowing certain things to be done with their work, and understandable as to why it's so individualized with the terms of use on Teachers Pay Teach. Okay, so I will just mention here, like I was going to explain before, for me personally on Tealazzo clip art, like I'm someone that I like to have a simple terms of use. I don't personally like mucking around too much with all the extra stuff. I like to kind of keep my stuff simple, and because like my work, I don't have a major attachment to it, because I feel like, this is just getting real and honest here, guys, like I just feel like in my mind, it's like if I've created something that you can use in a commercial way that you can gain money from, like kudos to you do that. Like that's amazing to me. If you can utilize that, create something within your own original works with my work, that's amazing to me. You go and do what you need to do. I do say, and I will just quickly show you here though, like my terms of use say here, clip art included in this download can be used both personal and commercial use. To make it simple, there are no limit of numbers, restrictions, or additional licenses needed for you to use in your own commercial products. However, you may not resell, redistribute any part of this set individually or in a pack as is. So you can't basically buy the set and then resell it as it is. Clip art is best to be used as a visual addition to your own original works rather than the main product. So that is just a suggestion. And I'm just suggesting that, you need to add a little bit more of your own originality to it if you can. So it's not just my own work and you've just put it on a page sort of thing. You have to really, it's just a suggestion, as I said. I write here, note, a link or reference back to my store in some form is all that is required to include in commercial works. So like I said, I like to keep things very, very simplistic. I personally like a simplistic terms of use. But not to say that this is right for everyone. My terms of use is completely not right for everyone because, it depends on how much work and effort you put into and how long it takes you to create certain types of work, and I guess even the quality and what experience you have. And what I mean is, like, for me, I'm still beginning my journey, and I know for other clip artists who have been selling clip art for many years now, they've come and they've dealt with a lot of different adversities within their own business. And some of these people are coming from backgrounds, they've got graphic design background, they've, illustrated books before, they've done certain things. So they have a clientele that, really love that, and they've got like a very specific style. So it's understandable as why they wouldn't want somebody, and why they have a bit more of a stricter terms of use. They need to have a stricter terms of use when it comes to that. And I think as you grow as a clip artist, I think that becomes something that you become more aware of as well. But like I said, for me personally, just at this moment in time, my terms of use is sitting at a very open and free kind of terms of use. It's basically, you can use it for commercial use and sort of whatever, but you just need to make sure that there is credit given back to my store. That's the general gist of my own terms of use. So moving on, I want to talk about some words to know in licensing. So when you're reading the terms of use, these are some words that you may come across that you may find interesting, or you might not know what they mean, or I think basically it'd just be good to know as a person that's a buyer. And also too, if you're a creator, because you might be thinking, oh, well, I could allow this for my clip art and what I could do with it. So let's talk about it. So movable clip art, that's a word that comes across in some terms of use. Digisets is another word that comes across in some terms of use, and paperless resources. So they are pretty self-explanatory, but I will go a little bit more into depth with these. So let's talk about movable clip art. So it's basically just clip art that can be moved, dropped and dragged within a resource or a product. So it's not something that is embedded into the resource. You can actually physically move it with your mouse. So a good example of this would be boom cards. When you have, or if you don't know what boom cards is, I will probably try and insert a little side video for you just to see. But boom cards and easel are two things. Easel, if you're not aware of easel, is like a platform on actual Teachers Pay Teachers, a digital platform that allows you to manipulate, type, and it's like an online digital worksheet that you can use. And that was really helpful for some people in the midst of the pandemic when we couldn't actually go into, well, I wasn't teaching at the time, but for those people that were teaching when they were teaching online, that was something that they were able to access. In easel and boom cards, they are platforms or programs or whatever you want to call them that allow or can have clip art that move around in those things. So that's something just to be mindful of, that movable clip art is a word that you may come across. And if you want to know what it is, it's just basically a clip art that does not need to be flattened. It's allowed to be moved around. And if you're wanting clip art that you can move and alter around within your product, then you want to be looking for this word, movable clip art, in the terms of use. So yeah, basically here, just a quick visual, you can move the clip art. So you could grab it from here and move it to the right and move it all the way around the page, however you wish in your product. The next word is digisets. So this is, in some clip artists' terms of use, it's basically clip art that has been made to be optimized for digital use. So it usually comes at a lower resolution, about 150 dpi. It's usually a smaller file size, which is good for online digital platforms as it's quicker to upload. And you can still print with this type of clip art, but it's not actually ideal for printing, but it still can print. Because of the lower resolution, being more specific to online platforms or digital platforms, it's not at the standard 300 dpi, which is made for printing. So it's just something to keep in mind if you are purchasing something called a digiset. You're purchasing something that is designed for a digital use, not for something that you can print off. It's not designed for that. Just something to keep in mind, because that is something pretty interesting if you are looking for just something that you want to be used digitally and you're not too bothered about whether it is clip art that you need for printing. All right. this third word, which was paperless resources. This is pretty simple, but it just basically means products that are purely digital based. So no printing off something in order to be used. So again, same example as movable clip art, but you can also use this in like boom cards and easel because it's just like a purely digital based clip art you can basically use in what they say is paperless resources because you're not actually printing or using any paper, it's just digital. All right, now let's move on and let's talk about crediting your clip artist. So you as the buyer, say you want to purchase some clip art, and even if you're a clip artist, you're just wondering if you're just starting out on this journey, you're wondering, okay, well, how is someone meant to reference me or like credit me? What do they need to do? I'll explain that here. It will be in a basic form, but I'll explain what I know and what you can do to be able to credit your clip artist. So when you are on Teachers Pay Teachers as a buyer and you've purchased from a clip artist, you still, again, will have to read their terms of use because the terms of use really dictates whether and how to really credit them. Each clip artist is individual with what they like. So in most cases though, a lot of the clip artists on Teachers Pay Teachers will provide a logo within the download. For example, this is my logo. And to be honest, I'm kind of starting to get a little bit, old with this because I feel like I want to update this soon, but I'm just going to keep it as is for now, but I will eventually upgrade this because I feel like once you've had your logo for a little while, it starts to get a little bit old and you feel like you want to revamp it. But sorry, I am getting off track. But anyway, so this is my logo, and in the majority of cases, a clip artist will have their own logo in a file. So that is where when you come to your own terms of use or whatever you're going to create, acknowledgements, credit page, when it comes to that, the majority of people will insert the logo and hyperlink it. So certain stores require their actual credit logo to be hyperlinked back to their store. If you don't know what hyperlinked means, it basically means when you are opening that PDF or whatever the resource is, that person can click on your logo and it takes them to their Teachers Pay Teacher store. That's what hyperlinks or hyperlinked back to their store means. So for me, I don't necessarily require a hyperlink. I don't write that in my terms of use, but what I do require is for you to use my logo and just reference back to my store if you can. So that is enough by just even including the logo for me. But in many cases, a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers will say, and they require it to be hyperlinked back to their store in order to be able to use their clip art. So keep that in mind. And I might even on the side, like here, I might insert like a little video to show you how to actually hyperlink it back to their store. All right, now I'll just show you quickly. This is just another little screenshot from my thank you page, which is basically my credits page in the Creative Table store. So you can see this is the thing too. So I interchange, because I create my own clip art on Tealazzo clip art. I actually use my own clip art. I don't for a lot of it, I actually use my own work. I don't always use other people's clip art. And I have done that purposefully for a few reasons. One is because I guess I have a bit more uniqueness having it as my own, and it's not going to look like a lot of other people's products if I've created my own clip art for it. But B, just because I have unconditional rights to my clip art when I create it myself. And so you'll see here, now this is not what everyone does. I have never really seen this on anyone's terms of use or thank you page or credit page, whatever you want to say. But the reason why I do this is because, you can see here, I've actually included like the little link in the bottom, because I use a free way of I use PowerPoint to be able to do my products, and I don't have anything like Adobe or Flatpak. I need to include the underlined link, because it won't actually allow me to hyperlink the image. If it allowed me to hyperlink the image, I would have just hyperlinked the image. But what I found with using PowerPoint, if anyone can chime in here and tell me why it's not working, that would be amazing. But I found that it just won't allow me to do it. I don't know if it's just because the feature you need to get a different program or not to use, but regardless, that is why I have these little lines underneath so people can just click it, and that's my way of hyperlinking to my own store. So like I said, if it was a normal product that you were able to hyperlink, if you had a paid program, or even if you didn't and you know how to do it through PowerPoint, all you'd need is to include the logo and just make sure that it's hyperlinked to their store. So when a buyer purchases it, they click on the logo, then it will take them to the store. In this case, I haven't been able to do that, so I've had to include the little links underneath. And I know some people probably like, that looks kind of tacky, and it is what it is. For me, it's the information that's there. I, over time, will probably, invest in something that I can have it look a little bit more flawless. But for now, it is what it is, and that's how I'm navigating this for now. But that's just an example to show you kind of an idea of how you can kind of link by having a credit logo and then like a hyperlink to someone's store. All right, so let's talk about flattening and securing now. So this is the majority of Teachers Pay Teachers sellers will require you to flatten or secure the clip art images you are using from them, so they are not loose for anyone to be able to grab and use. So what this basically means is when you purchase a clip art set and say you've inserted it into PowerPoint, if you just export that PDF, say you've made a worksheet and you've exported the PDF and someone opens that PDF, they can just select the image that you've used from that clip artist and copy it and just paste it into a document, and they've just basically stole or taken that clip art free of charge. Now, the reason why Teachers Pay Teachers sellers will say flatten or secure, and they're quite serious about it, is because this not only does a disservice to you as the buyer who has spent their good earned money on this clip art, but also to the clip artist, because that person has now accessed free clip art that they should have really paid for off a product that you've released to them when they didn't even have the rights to. So it just doesn't do anyone any good if your product or resource is not flattened or secure. Now, this is mostly in like Teachers Pay Teachers products. As a clip artist, obviously you're not going to flatten or secure your clip art into a PDF, so that's not going to be a worry for you. But if you are someone that is selling clip art, you need to make that pretty clear in your terms of use that for them to flatten, so whenever someone buys something, for them to flatten or secure the clip art, so then it's not easily taken away from a PDF document. So it's kind of important to know. And I will go and explain a little bit how to do that if you're not too sure, if that's still kind of confusing to you. Because I do remember in the early days when I was like working this whole thing out with Teachers Pay Teachers, I'm still in the early days, but in the earlier days, I was like, what is this flatten and secure? What do I need to do here? I was kind of confused about it, and that's why I'm hoping maybe this will shed some light for some of you that are like, okay, I've heard this flatten or secure, what does this mean? So let me kind of go a bit more into this. All right, so ways to flatten and secure. Now this, I will say, is primarily to do with PowerPoint, and I can't really speak on anything else because I rarely use PowerPoint. There's a free way to do it and there's a paid way to do it. To be very honest with you guys, I still use the free way to flatten and secure my work. Because I create my own clip art and stuff, it's not such a worry to me because it's my own work. So it takes a lot longer the free way. I will say I have not actually tried or used the paid way, so eventually I do want to go and trial a paid version or paid opportunity to, flatten and secure my work easier. But for now, I'm finding that this is what I've been doing and it's been working so far. So the free way, basically, when you're in a PowerPoint document, is to export all of, say you've completed your worksheets and you want to flatten it. So to flatten it, you basically, in the free way, is you export it as a PNG or a JPEG. A PNG because JPEG, from what I've seen, kind of comes out a little blurry if you're going to go that way between the JPEG or PNG. But what I have found from trial and error is it is much clearer, at least me doing it on a Mac, to actually screenshot and insert as a background into a brand new PowerPoint presentation. That basically then allows you to flatten all of that in one image. So if anyone was tried to, say, if you exported that PDF, if anyone, and they open that PDF, if anyone was to try and copy it, they'd copy the whole image. They couldn't just single out that piece of clip art and steal it. It'd be a lot harder. It would be just a lot harder to access. And that is the main grounds of it. We don't want to allow, we sort of want to make it, when it's flattening and securing, we want to make it as hard as possible for anyone to be able to steal it in other ways. Because, you know, people do steal things, and I know it's not something that's probably talked about a lot, but people, you know, it does happen to some people, and it's not a nice feeling when it happens to you, when somebody steals your work or steals your clip art, or, you know, it's just not a good feeling. So that's why, you know, we suggest to secure it and flatten it. Now, if you are going the paid version, programs such as Flatpak, you might have heard this talked about on other paid teachers YouTube channels, Flatpak. I have heard only good things about Flatpak, but I will say I have not personally used it. Except if I was to go and invest in a paid program for this particular reason, I would go and try it out, Flatpak. Now, that is something that you can actually purchase on Teachers Pay Teachers. I think it's from Bearwood Labs. I'll link like a photo or put a photo up here shortly to just kind of show you guys. The other option would be Adobe, and they, I'm pretty sure, allow for password protection. So that's another good way to do it. And there are other things that I haven't mentioned here, but that's about looking a bit more into it. I can't speak on that at this point because, like I said, I still use a free version of screenshotting it and inserting it as a background. I know it takes a lot longer for me than just a click of a button like what I've heard Flatpak allows you to do. It is what it is, and it's working for me doing it the free way, so I haven't felt the need yet to invest in a paid program, but I think eventually I really do want to, because I know that will save me a lot more time. But that's basically the gist of flattening and securing. If you'd like me to do an actual video of that in the future, I'm happy to do that. And I hope that this made a little bit of sense for anyone following along. I do remember in the early days, I looked into this, and I remember trying to look on YouTube, trying to find out how to do it for free when I first started. And here I am, and I'm still doing it for free. So anyway, that's moving on. Okay, so here we're going to be talking about clip art tips. This is really important. So clip art tips of things to be mindful of when choosing clip art to use in your products, and also for creating if you want to be a clip artist on TPT. Mind open when I say these things, and keep your mind open, and just know that I'm coming from a massive place of love here, because I've made some mistakes and I don't want you to make those mistakes. For me to share this, it's almost, I want to do a separate video as well, kind of addressing some things I'm about to talk about. But when I say these following things, just know it's coming from an ultimate place of love, because I've made these mistakes, and I don't want someone brand new starting out that this is okay, because I've learned the hard way in sort of a sense. So please just take this in mind. Please really listen in this next part. First of all, free and paid products on TPT still require clip art to have a commercial use approved license. So, for example, if you are, say if you're not a clip artist, but you are a buyer or a Teachers Pay Teachers seller, you want to make a resource and you want to use some clip art, but you're only creating this product as your first product, and it's your free, and it has to be a free product, your very first one. And say you say, oh, I'm going to use this free clip art on Teachers Pay Teachers that I found only for personal use. You still can't use that clip art because it's for personal use, even if the product is free. Regardless of the product being free, you still need to make sure it's a commercial use approved license, because if it's not, you can't use it in that product even if it's free. So that's just something to be very mindful of. I hope that made sense, because I know it's kind of confusing, but let's just put it this way. If you are brand new to Teachers Pay Teachers, and I'm not talking about a clip artist here, but I'm talking about somebody that's wanting to buy clip art or is downloading free clip art in the beginning days because they can't afford to pay for clip art yet, and you're making a resource for free using free clip art that says personal use only, and you're thinking, well, it's only free, my product's only going to be free, people are only going to be using it for free, that's still, you can't do that. The clip art that you use needs to be commercially used approved, regardless of whether your product is free or whether it's paid. It's both needs to be basically a commercial use license. Second of all, now, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. So just because a clip artist says you can use it for commercial use does not automatically mean that you can legally. We'll put my hand up and I will say I made a mistake in the early days of the creative table. I really want to speak out about this in maybe a separate video, but I will just say, in the early days, I heard the advice of create what you would create for your classroom. And I will say now, I don't agree with that. I don't actually agree with just creating what you can for your classroom. Because I took that advice from what I heard at the time, because I didn't know any better, I created things that, for example, I created a Lego clip art set, and it was different to like it looked like Lego. So it was obviously, I tried to make it look like Lego, but I didn't realize, because I obviously when I was teaching year one, what I remember from them when I was in that year one class, they loved Lego, and I created a lot of little resources that, used Lego. And so I thought, if I'm to create something that is from my classroom, then I know my kids loved Lego, so that would be an amazing thing for other teachers to be able to create resources with Lego. So I did that, and I had no idea that was not legal, because I had never sold anything online before. I just had no clue. And over time, I found out, oh my goodness, what I'm doing is not right. It's trademarked. It's like, I shouldn't be doing this. I couldn't be doing this. And so it ended up being taken down. And I'm glad that happened to me, because that allowed me to understand, oh my goodness, what I was doing wasn't right. And that's why I'm speaking from a place of love here, because I've made that mistake. I've really made that mistake, and obviously I learned fairly quickly, but it did take me a little while to work out. And this is also why teachers pay teachers can get a bad rep, because when you first start out and you are just trying to figure out the whole teachers pay teachers thing, sometimes you see other people doing something and you're like, oh, they've done it, that's fine, so I can do it too. But please don't think that way, because as I'm going to talk about in the next couple of slides, it's not the right way to think about it. And me looking back now, honestly, what I would have really loved is like for a video to tell me something like this, because if I had heard this before I started, I would never have ventured into that realm of even trying to like create a clip art set on Lego. I just never would have. And I just didn't know at that time, my very early days when I first started. So like I said, just because you see something and a clip artist says that, because when I had that early day of the Lego situation, the Lego clip art set, I also said, yes, you can use it for commercial use. Little did I know that, no, it's illegal to use that because it's trademarked. It's not mine to say that to be used for commercial use. And the thing is too, as a buyer, you need to be pretty smart with this too, because even if you've purchased something, you need to also do your due diligence to know that, due diligence to also research into it yourself. You can't just blame somebody else and say, oh, well, they said it was this. No, you also need to do your due diligence. And you guys, it is all a learning curve. So this is the next thing that I want to say. Just because I did mention this briefly, but just because you see someone else uploading something on TPT does not mean it is legal. And it's not worth risking your store. It's just not. There have been cases, small stores that they had no idea, whether they did not have any actual idea, or if they were just trying to ignore it, and they've put out things utilizing trademark, and they have had cease and desist letters sent to them and saying that this is, and they've had their stores at risk. And it's just not worth risking your store. When I started Tealazzo ClipArt, because of my experience with the creative table in those early days, I really wanted to try and stay as much as I could with integrity to Tealazzo ClipArt. Because I had that experience, I'm not someone that would naturally try and think of ripping off someone else. I'm not that type of person at all. And if I had known better from the beginning, I would have done better from the beginning. And that's why I'm coming from a place of love, because I know it can be hard. I know it can be confusing, and there's lots to learn. It's really a big learning curve. And because of that, I will say this. When you know better, you can do better. So don't beat yourself up for making a mistake, but try to hold integrity as much as you can. TBT is a learning curve, but I didn't know won't cut it if it comes to a legal issue or battle in the future. With that being said, again, I come from the utmost place of love, because I've made that mistake, and I know how it feels to not feel like, oh my goodness, I'm doing the wrong thing and I had no idea. But I did go through my store, and even now I've had to because in the early days I made those mistakes, which I wish I didn't make those mistakes, because like I said, if I knew better, I wouldn't have even done that in the beginning. But because of that issue, it's made me think further into the future. But I've had to still fix up a lot of my mistakes, and I'm still clearing out extra things from my early mistakes, which I wish I would have just started from. I just wish I knew better from the beginning. I just didn't have that knowledge at the time, but now I have a bit better understanding. And I'm not perfect, guys. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better as well. So basically, I just want to say, look out for copyright and trademark terms. So before choosing clip art to create with, so when you're creating a product, or even if you're deciding, what clip art can I create? My best advice in some case would be stay away from creating and buying well-known things. So for example, things like Lego, things like emojis, things like Cat in the Hat, things like Harry Potter, things like Elf on the Shelf items. And I will say, in some cases, if a seller, this isn't always the case, but some cases, a seller on Teachers Pay Teachers or a clip artist will reach out to the person that owns that trademark, and they do get permission to be able to have their resource. But for the majority, for these really big, well-known things, they do not allow people to utilize their trademarks, and it's actually basically illegal. So it's not something that you are supposed to be selling on. Actually, very recently there was an email sent out, I'm talking about a couple days recently, about Warner Brothers sending out a Harry Potter warning to say those people that have utilized Harry Potter to basically have a look at their resource to see if it's undermining or having any trademark or copyright issues with it. So they were giving a notification to allow you to take it down if you did have something existing. That is not always the case, and they don't always have to give you a warning. So it's just like I said, it's best to stay away from creating and buying, well-known things like that have those big trademarks. I know Bitmoji. I know a lot of people have used Bitmoji in some of their things. That's also actually trademarked, and that can't be used in commercial use items as well. So there's some things you would never think that are trademarked or copyright that are really, it's important to really kind of just do a bit more research. And one way, I will say, there's a positive side with this. I will show you in a small little video on the side, if I can, the site that a lot of US people choose to go to that allow you to check if there is a trademark on a particular word. And so I will link the trademark website below, and I'll try and insert a little video for you so you can kind of see. But my best advice is for you to go to a trademark website and check the trademark to see what is existing and to see whether it's something that you can take on or whether there is trademarks to that name. And if there is, it's just not even worth getting into. It's not worth risking your store. It's just not. Getting to the end of this presentation, basically just read the fine print of each clip artist's terms of use. If you are confused, really don't hesitate to reach out to the clip artist to ask a question. You can do this on Teachers Pay Teachers by going to their store profile and going to ask a question and writing a question. If they don't answer your question, it's always good to see if they've got an email, because in most cases an email might be a little bit more personable to them to know that you've gone out of your way to send an email to get a direct question. But there is the opportunity, at least on Teachers Pay Teachers, to ask a question and then have the clip artist answer if you're not 100% sure on their terms of use. So basically, yay, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching. Like I said, you guys, I do actually want to make a deeper video in the future about my mistake in the early days. Alrighties guys, thank you so much if you made it to the end. I know sometimes I tend to ramble a little bit, but I promise you I'm not trying to make it any extra longer. I have a lot to say, and sometimes it doesn't come out all the way the right way. I'm still learning this YouTube journey and how to film and stuff like that, but I hope that amongst all the mess and the chaos of this big video that you learned something new today, and maybe that it's also enlightened you to feel a bit more empowered about moving forward with your Teachers Pay Teachers journey, and just knowing some things about clip art, and yeah, just having a better understanding of it all. Like I said in the video, if you would like me to create a video showing you how I flatten and secure my clip art PDFs for free, basically, I'm happy to do that video. But until then, what you can expect from me is I do have a few video ideas up my sleeve. I do really want to talk about the copyright and trademark issues, and I also want to talk about, and I also would love to do like a little clip art chit chat with me as well, kind of thing, where I just create clip art and we can just chat while I create clip art for TPT. So if that interests you, then feel free to join me on this journey, and I would love to have you along. So thank you once again guys, and I appreciate your time. Alrighties, see you in my next video. Adios!